Hello, one and all, and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And I come to you today with yet another tag in my battle to try and catch up with the tags that I have thus far not been able to do due to other commitments. Now I'm on summer holidays. Luckily, I have a bit more time. Apologies for a bit of noise in the background. Sorry. It's strange, there's some kind of announcement, so I don't know if they are announcing the start of World War III or anything. They could well be. It's a bit unusual, I think, at this time of day. Usually they have one a couple of times a week, or at least towards the end of the week. We have these public service announcements in town, and they're quite normal in the Czech Republic. They have them even in the villages, and usually they come on with announcements about what's happening, cultural events, special events, news from around the town. I think they're a byproduct probably of the communist days, where they probably came on to extol the virtues of international socialism and this kind of stuff. Come on, comrades, let's work for a better socialist future and stuff like this. But of course, these days they're usually for important announcements. So maybe it's normal because usually I'm at work, so I wouldn't know. But I haven't heard it before at midday on a Wednesday before. So thankfully it stopped. I'll soon find out if it's something important. Anyway, so I come to you today with another tag, and this is the JFK tag, an original tag made by Very Literary Kari, and she was kind enough to tag me in this. Certainly I'm not an expert in John F. Kennedy and his assassination. However, luckily the prompts don't require you to be, so that's good. Let's start with the first one. 10 of us and one more. Rose and Joe Sr. had a boat called Tenuvus to signify the 10 members of the Kennedy clan. With the birth of Ted, the family named another boat One More. What book with a large cast of characters would you recommend? I'll recommend a historical fiction series, actually, but I'll show only the first book in the series. And it's the War of the Roses series by Con Eagledon, and this is the first book here, Stormbird, and it's a great series. I really enjoyed it. It's all about the Wars of the Roses, which took place in England during the 15th century, and it involves a really large cast of characters, and it's across 3-4 books, I think, and it's well worth reading if you get the chance and you like that kind of thing. I suppose it's similar to Game of Thrones without the dragons and the White Walkers and things like that. But and what's nice is, of course, a lot of what happens in it is actually true. So very much recommend that one. Number 2, PT109. What is your favourite book featuring a harrowing survival, rescue or war story? I had a few to choose from, but I thought I'd go with a survival book that I read, and it was really interesting. I read it last year. I don't have it with me, unfortunately. It was called River of Darkness, Francisco Orellana's legendary voyage of death and discovery down the Amazon by Buddy Levy. And it followed the adventures of a conquistador, Francisco Orellana. Orellana. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not entirely sure how it's said. But he was a conquistador who went through, following the course of the Amazon River and into the dense rainforest. And I read another book called what was it? Jungle. It's by an Israeli writer. There was a film made about it with Daniel Radcliffe. It's one thing being lost in the 1980s, when you're wearing like modern clothing and this kind of stuff, but I cannot imagine how uncomfortable it was for these conquistadors and their soldiers and whatever to trek through the Amazon rainforest and everything with their armor on, and just how uncomfortable their boots must have been and all this kind of stuff. But it's a really, really interesting book. Very interesting tale of early South American discovery and, of course, survival. So, yeah, I would recommend that one as well. Number 3, Addison's Disease. What is your favourite book that deals with disease or the medical field? Well, I haven't really got one, and I haven't really read that many. Science, maybe more so, but directly to do with medicine, no. I have read a few books, but unfortunately I can't remember the names. They're the kind of books, they're these miscellanies, like, for example, an ancient Greek medicine cabinet or an ancient Roman medicine cabinet, and they just talk about all the kind of bizarre cures and preventative medicine they had in the ancient world and this kind of thing. And these things are very interesting for me, definitely. I mean, any kind of historical, scientific or medical thing would be of interest, though I haven't read that many, so I can't really give a satisfactory answer, I'm afraid, to prompt number 3. Number 4, Camelot. What real or imagined dynasty would you like to read more about? I always enjoy reading about the Romanovs. So it's a real dynasty. I've read a few books on them. I like even the individual stories of the Romanovs. So, for example, the books of Robert K. Massey, Catherine the Great, and of course Peter the Great, and others. So yeah, I really enjoy learning about them. I find them fascinating right the way through from the time of Ivan the Terrible all the way through to the last Tsar with Nicholas II. Number 5, High Hopes. Frank Sinatra re-recorded this song for Kennedy's 1960 presidential campaign. If you ran for office, what would your campaign song be? Well, I thought of quite a few things. I mean, I love classical music, opera. There were a few I would have chosen from that. Or perhaps something like the Imperial March from Star Wars. I always liked the idea of, if I was a president or something like that, having my own little orchestra that preceded me everywhere I went, playing this just for a bit of fun. But in the end, I actually went for a more popular music choice, which is the song Common People by Pulp, because I think it's also, it could be a little bit arrogant, and I like that, because if I'm running for office, probably I would have a bit of a big head, and using phrases like, I want to be like common people like you, would be quite fun, I think. So it's Common People by Pulp. If you don't know it, I'll leave a link to the song there. It's a very good song. There we go. Number 6, We Choose to Go to the Moon. Name the last book you read that was set in space. I actually haven't really read any novels, I think, that were set in space. I do find space very interesting, but that's all in a non-fictional setting. And probably the last book I read that was, as a cover to cover rather than a reference work, was Cosmos by Carl Sagan, and I really enjoyed that, and I'm sure most of you have probably read that, so I don't need to say much more about it. Number 7, Coconut. The coconut shell JFK carved a rescue message on during the PT-109 incident was encased in plastic and used as a paperweight in the Oval Office. Do you have any neat desk items or mementos? I like to think I do have quite a few neat mementos, but I'm not going to show them all here and now, perhaps another time. But I thought I would stay true to the spirit of the thing and choose things that are actually on my desk rather than in my desk drawers or in other parts of the house. And I chose 2 things. One of them is something I got from the Viking Museum in Norway. Unfortunately, the original pen that went with it has long run out and long lost. If you look at this here, it's part of a longship, and it's quite nice, I have to say, and it's very heavy. So there you go, and you just stick the pen in there, and it sits on the desk. And I see, it's fallen out. That's the problem when you lose or can't use the original anymore. But yeah, it's a nice piece. This I have to say. And it could actually be used as a paperweight as well. And the other thing I got, which is quite unusual probably, because not many people smoke these days, and certainly they don't smoke pipes, but I have a pipe holder, this one here, and it's actually my grandfather's. He did smoke pipes. He smoked these two pipes. He died many years ago when I was 4, and my grandmother never threw these away, and my mother gave them, or actually maybe my grandmother gave them to me many years ago, and my parents sent them out to me not that long ago, and it sits on my desk here. I think it's quite nice. I mean, I know people have funny thing about smoking, but as I say, they just sit there. It's really for decoration. Though it does amaze me, the last time these were probably smoked was 1984, 1983, 1984, and it's just amazing to me that they still smell, really still smell of pipe tobacco from all those years ago. I can see teeth marks on them. They might have been mine from when I was a small kid, because I did sometimes play with them. But yeah, it's a nice thing to have, and it's a nice memory as well. So yeah, it's something I think is unusual, because not many people are going to have pipe holders on their desk. Okay, number 8, scandal. What personal or political scandal would you like to read more about? I've gone with a political scandal that shook England or the UK a couple of years ago through things like Operation Yewtree, and it was the idea of institutional cover-ups of pedophile rings in British society. It uncovered many so-called pedophiles at high levels, both in government and in the entertainment industry, and police corruption that allowed them to continue in what they were doing. And these people were protected, from the top. So there's a lot of questions to answer for example, from someone like Margaret Thatcher, who very likely would have known some of the people around her were pedophiles. It's a horrible topic, but the reason I would like to know more about it is because I would really like the people to be uncovered and have them, of course, named and shamed, and of course, if they're still around, prosecuted as well. Unfortunately, there was a big deal about it, and then it kind of went away. Something else kind of distracted the people, as it always does, and it seems not much else has happened since then. And I would really like to read more about that and find out exactly how prolific this was. Number 9, Peace Corps. What book made you a better person? It's very difficult to say. I cannot think of one particular book that has made me a better person, though I would like to think that by being a reader and reading in general has made me a better person, because I think reading gives you knowledge, and through that knowledge you are able to make perhaps better informed decisions, and maybe you learn more about the world and all the different things in it. So perhaps you might be susceptible to being improved as a person. And I like to think that I am a better person and a more rounded person by being a reader and reading than I would have been without reading. Okay, number 10, conspiracy. What are your thoughts on the Kennedy assassination? My knowledge of the Kennedy assassination is limited pretty much to one book I read many, many years ago, which I really can't remember the name. I was a kid and I only read it because I'd watched the Oliver Stone film JFK, which I understand isn't, a lot of it might be presented as fact, but of course it is only one person's or one point of view as to what may have happened regarding the people involved in that. However, after speaking with a few people, and I do believe that it was a conspiracy. I don't think it was a single gunman. I spoke to a few people who visited the book depository, who even didn't know much about marksmanship and that kind of thing, and they said that it was just really strange how a left-handed person could shoot to the right, as a car's turning around the corner, when they had ample time to shoot him coming down the road head on, and they didn't do it. And I don't know much about magic bullets. I've only, as I say, that only comes to me from Oliver Stone's JFK, and of course that Seinfeld episode with the spitting, I think, with Newman and Kramer. But yeah, I think it's too big a thing for one person to have carried off. I don't know who did it, whether it's the mafia or covert government forces or whoever. Certainly, I believe Kennedy, rolled with so-called dodgy people anyway. But I think it's very surprising, especially how Oswald got killed himself in kind of a mob hit, really, from Jack Ruby not long after the assassination. So it is very odd. I do believe, as I say, there's more to it than just Lee Harvey Oswald walking up to whichever floor it was of the Texas Book Depository and shooting Kennedy. I think there are other factors and other forces, perhaps darker forces, involved. So there we go. I don't know who to tag because Kari tagged a lot of people, so I will probably leave it. But if you've watched the video up to this point, consider yourself tagged. Please give it a go. It's very interesting, and you don't have to know anything about JFK to do it. So there we go. Thank you very much for your time. Take care, everybody, and look forward to seeing you next time. All the best. Bye-bye.